Welcome to this deep dive. We're here to unpack some recent events and really look at what's going on behind the headlines.
Exactly.
Today, we're focusing on some specific statements made by former President Trump. These were at a rally recently.
Right. Concerning his time in office, election results,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Our goal really is just to bring some clarity. Look
Yeah.
at the claims, look at the facts, and let you draw your own conclusions.
Yes. Separating the rhetoric from the established record. We're looking at that Michigan rally, April 29th, 2025. It marked his first 100 days back in office.
And several things he said definitely caught people's attention.
They did, and they warrant a closer look, against the facts.
Yeah.
It's interesting how these statements build a certain narrative.
Okay, let's jump right in then. One of the big ones was when President Trump said, well, we actually already served 3, but if you count, but remember, I like the victories. I like the 3 victories, which we absolutely had. I just don't like the results of the middle term. When you hear that, what's the immediate factual picture? Just terms served.
Well, the straightforward fact is President Trump served one full term, 2017 to 2021.
Right.
And he began his second term in early 2025. So he's currently in his second term.
So the claim of having already served 3?
It just doesn't line up with the actual timeline of U.S. presidencies. 2 terms served or currently serving in the second.
And this middle term he mentioned, where he didn't like the results.
Yeah, that's referring to the period between his first and second terms.
Okay, so not a term he served at all.
Precisely. That was January 2021 to January 2025. Joe Biden was the president then.
So it wasn't his term with results he disliked, it was someone else's presidency entirely.
Exactly. Which, raises questions about how that time is being framed in the statement.
It also makes you think about the rules, the constitutional limits on presidential terms. Could you remind us about that?
Absolutely. That's the 22nd Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Right.
And it's very clear. It states that no person can be elected to the office of president more than twice.
Elected twice.
Correct. It basically codified that 2-term tradition.
Yeah.
So this idea of having already served 3 terms,
Mm-hmm.
it runs up against that fundamental constitutional limit.
Okay. Now, within that same quote, he also talked about 3 victories. He said, I like the 3 victories, which we absolutely had. Looking purely at the presidential elections he ran in, what's the actual scorecard?
Well, the record shows Donald Trump won the presidential election in 2016.
Okay, win number 1.
Then he ran again in 2020, and he lost that election to Joe Biden.
So 1 win, 1 loss at that point.
Correct. And then he won the presidential election in 2024.
Making it 2 wins.
2 wins, 1 loss in presidential contests. So the claim of 3 victories, again, it doesn't match the electoral outcomes.
Let's shift focus slightly, but stay with the same rally. This was in Michigan.
Right.
He first said he won Michigan twice, which is accurate for 2016 and 2024. But then he added, we actually won it 3 times.
That specific claim about Michigan.
What do the certified results tell us about Michigan specifically?
Okay, looking at Michigan, President Trump won the state in 2016. That's win 1 there.
Yes.
In 2020, he lost Michigan to Joe Biden. And it wasn't particularly close. Biden won by over 150,000 votes.
A significant margin. So that's a loss in Michigan in 2020.
A clear loss. Then in 2024, President Trump won Michigan again.
So tallying that up for Michigan.
It's 2 wins, 2016 and 2024, and 1 loss, 2020. The factual record shows 2 Michigan victories for him.
Not 3.
Not 3. The assertion just isn't backed up by the results. And,
Yeah.
Interesting that this specific claim about a state repeats that number 3.
Later in that same rally, he also talked about the 2024 election itself, stating that Democrats tried to cheat on this election.
Claims about election integrity.
What's the factual basis for a statement like that regarding the 2024 election?
Well, it's really crucial to be clear here. There have been, numerous investigations, audits, court challenges related to election integrity, particularly after 2020, and continuing concerns raised in 2024.
Right. Lots of scrutiny.
A great deal. But no evidence of widespread voter fraud, the kind that could have actually changed the outcome of the 2024 election, has ever been substantiated.
So, claims of large-scale cheating.
They lack a factual basis, according to all the official reviews and court findings. And, thinking bigger picture, these kinds of unsupported claims can impact public confidence in the whole electoral process.
And just briefly, this wasn't the first time President Trump has sort of hinted at serving beyond the usual 2 terms, was it? There was something back in March.
Yes, there was a comment noted in March where he suggested, somewhat vaguely, that there are methods for potentially staying in office longer.
What do we make of comments like that, given the very clear constitutional limits we discussed?
Well, these remarks, even if ambiguous, they do raise questions. Questions about sort of the acceptance or interpretation of that firm two-term limit set by the 22nd Amendment.
Which is pretty foundational.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a core principle designed to prevent excessive concentration of executive power over time. So any suggestion of going beyond that touches on fundamental aspects of American governance.
Okay, so if we try to pull all these threads together from the rally,
Mm.
what are the core factual takeaways people should keep in mind?
I think the key facts boil down to this. President Trump has served one full term and is currently serving his second. That's 2 terms total so far.
2 terms served.
He has won 2 presidential elections, 2016 and 2024. He lost one, 2020.
2 wins, 1 loss nationally.
For Michigan specifically, he won it twice, 2016 and 2024, but lost it once in 2020.
2 wins, 1 loss in Michigan.
Correct. And the idea of a middle term he served doesn't fit the timeline that was Joe Biden's presidency. And finally, extensive checks have found no evidence of widespread fraud that affected the 2024 election outcome.
That lays it out very clearly. Thanks. This has been, well, a really clarifying look at these specific claims versus the factual record. As you reflect on this, what's sort of the main thing that stands out to you?
For me, it really underscores the importance of, always checking information against verifiable facts, especially with claims about election history or how our government works.
Yeah.
It's vital to seek out reliable sources, think critically. That's how you, the listener, can form your own informed views based on accuracy.
That's a great point. A powerful reminder for all of us. Thanks for walking us through this deep dive.
My pleasure.
And for you listening, maybe think about the implications. What does it mean for our understanding of things when political claims don't quite match up with the established records?
Yeah.
Definitely something worth considering.